What do you, Paresh, sir, your life?
Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Paresh, and I'm a member of the board of directors at CASI Global in New York. We are the world's largest platform for sustainability, and we also manage a very large volunteering platform. While the volunteering platform is in India, CASI has a presence in 52 countries. We do these seminars, we conduct these seminars, we call senior people from the industry across countries, across verticals in search of executive advice. So thank you very much for joining us. Today's session is part one of a 3-day session on drones, technology, and the policy. And today we have with us Narang sir, the Strategic Initiatives Director from the Drone Federation. We have Augustine sir, from Aerotech Private Limited, and we have Giatri from Trinidad, a part of the Civil Aviation Authority. We also have Hayden with us. Thank you very much, Hayden, for joining us. So, before we start, I have a question. And then we move on to the keynote speaker for the day and the presentations. So my question is very simple. Please, anybody can answer it. Please give me a 30-40 second small answer so that we move on with the presentations. Now, my question is, a lot of policy making is going into drones, whereas all of us somewhere we agree that it is the inevitable future. So what are we really waiting for? We are waiting to understand what can go wrong and then come out with policies, or we are waiting for some other country to come out with policies and then do a copy paste. Where are we really waiting? So
okay, anyone? I can answer that question for you.
Please.
I think that currently worldwide there's a disconnect. The technology makers, between the technology makers and the policy makers, right? So there is this disconnect where the technology makers are making these amazing types of technologies, but they are not consulting with the policy makers. And we know that in order for something to operate efficiently and non-destructively within our environment, it has to be guided, because there are a lot of elements such as criminal elements, or nefarious elements that can use this technology for wrong purposes, right? So if technology makers and policy makers come together and agree on a way forward before, so you want to be proactive with policy making, then you can stop this integration between both aspects, right? So you have to come together and be collaborative with each other and work on policies and technology so that they can go hand in hand, so that you can have a protected society.
Sure, a drone is freely available at $1,200 from China. So if a criminal wants to use it, he's already using it today. And,
Yes.
We are not able to use it for agriculture purposes or security purposes today,
Yes.
because the government is yet to take a call. So I don't think criminals have anything to do with. On the contrary, today criminals are allowed, whereas normal people are not allowed. So it is the other way around. So where are we stuck? 198 countries in the world, and less than 8 countries have a drone policy.
Yes. So I think that it's not that it's criminals that's using the drones. I just think that once a drone ends up in someone's hand, they have the capability of doing something with the actual drone. So they themselves might not be classified as a criminal, so to speak, but they can, if they wake up one morning and say, well, what if I go do this with the drone? They have that capability, because a lot of people or a lot of countries and a lot of states do not have anything that can protect them legally against that type of operation.
What is your opinion? Where are we stuck in the policy making?
Well, let me make, I'm a proponent of what I'm going to say, and I say it as often as I can. And we have to understand this very, very clearly. And that is, when I make a box, the policy. Policy is the box. When I make a box, I need to put the good guys in the box. Now, what does the good guy in the box do? Good guys always want to follow rules, laws. And what does good guy in the box do? He will identify himself. How does he identify himself? There are 3 methods of identifying. All the 3 have been adopted in India. It's already rolled out. So policy is constricting technology is a thing of the past in India. Anyone can download this particular document and read on it, and it is going to be one of the cornerstone document for the entire world. Be that as it may. In the box, what do I need to do? It is like owning a car. In the box, what do I need to do? I need to say this driver holding this license is driving a car having this number. What does this box do? It separates wheat from chaff. Okay? That means I need to know who the good guys are. Bad guys, as it is, will not follow your rule. He is not bound to follow your rule. In fact, he will find out what is your rule and he will not follow it. Which means whoever is not in the box is a bad guy. Whoever is driving a car without a number plate or driving a car without a license is a bad guy. It is as simple as that. Now, let's talk about technology and moving forward in technology or doing drones for good. Our job as innovators, our job as drone operators is not security. Security is security agencies' concern, not yours or not mine. It is police, it is Air Force, it is Army, it is their concern. Let them come out with counter drone policies and laws and technology, which, I repeat, is not drone technology. It is completely opposite of drone technology. Therefore, when we were talking about drone, let's talk about just this box. How do I identify myself as a drone pilot? How do I identify myself as a legitimate drone? These are the 2 things that we need to do. Now, let me take it a little step forward. In India, we have something called NPNT. Though there are many people who do not like it, but I'm absolutely for it. It is a start key, which means in the green zone, I don't need a drone which needs to have an NPNT, but in the red and the yellow zone. Let me tell you what is the red and the yellow zone. Red zones are those zones where you cannot fly, which is an airport. 12 kilometers within an airport, you cannot fly. You can fly if you take permission. Why do I need to fly in an airport? To give you 2 major examples. One, like a Kochi airport is 100% solar driven airport. It has lots of solar cells. So the solar cells needs to be monitored by a drone. There are airports in which the external activity, that is physically observing an aeroplane, is going to be done by drones. There are companies which are coming out with anti-icing equipment, which is drone based, which is going to save a lot of cost. So we may need to fly a drone in an airport. So I need NPNT. NPNT, like I told you, is the start key. That means when I take permission, the permission artifact, which is a secured ring, comes to my drone, and my drone's motor starts moving. Otherwise, my motor will not move. That is NPNT. Okay, there is another way of tracking is putting a physical tracker with a SIM card. So anyone seeing a drone, tomorrow Paresh is seeing a drone, he just have to take out a mobile, point it towards the drone. The mobile app will tell him this drone belongs to so-and-so and the flight plan is so-and-so. That is the second aspect. Third aspect, the drone always gives the telemetry data. It is always talking to the ground station. All I have to do is shove that information through the internet into an Indian system called Digital Sky. Any country can make any digital element and call it whatever they want. So these are the 3 methods of tracking a drone. Now, a person who cannot be tracked or a drone which is not being tracked is not a drone technology, and it is not drone people's concern. It is a security issue, and security people should be concerned. The law, the rule, everything should be for a counter drone technology, not drone technology. Therefore, we cannot and should not hamstring ourselves. I repeat, we cannot and should not hamstring ourselves looking at security scenario by bringing out rules and laws which will prohibit us from using drones, and which is what is happening in many countries. Drone is here to stay. Drone is going to touch yours and my lives much more than what IT technology did. Let me give you an example. Take 10 seconds and give you an example. In Uganda, the far-flung places of Uganda where blood reaches, medicine reaches, no TV has reached, no mobile phone has reached, which means the big boom of IT revolution has not touched the interior people of Uganda. What has touched the interior people of Uganda? Drones. Drones is here to stay. It is going to touch our lives more ways than one. It is going to make our lives easier. It is going to reduce carbon footprint hell of a lot. I mean, you can't even imagine that is the kind of reduction of carbon footprint that is going to happen.
Let's ask Narangji this question. Narangji, one quick question, quick query, and then we move on to the presentations. My question is, there are 198 countries in the world, and less than 8 countries have a policy on drones, and they are pro-drones. But drones is the future. They are inevitable. So where are we getting stuck? Because I feel that we are not able to take a decision because somewhere, someday, something might go wrong and the government will have implications. And so the government is not taking a stand right now. What do you feel? You're on mute, sir. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. I think it was the case, if you look at the history of drone regulation in India, till 2014, there was no problem. Drones were flying comfortably. Maybe because of ignorance or drone technology's impact, significance or the threat to the civil aviation had not dawned on us. The moment some drones were seen flying close to civil aviation, immediately ban was imposed on operation of drones. And then Indian government followed a cautious policy of giving exemptions and flying drones slowly and in a very limited and controlled manner. But over a period of time, the government has realized that drone is a technology which can transform India's aeronautic scenario. Why? Because in civil aviation, we miss the bus. We are more of a service-oriented, industry than a high-value industry. But drone is a transformation. You look at Augustine; he's a startup. Despite his rich experience, he's starting a new company, and that is possible in drone segment and not in the aviation segment. So it's an opportunity for the country to change the trajectory of aeronautics industry in India, and which can be done by, and this part you have to realize, the last 3 years, there have been number of drone incidents around the world. There have been armed drone attacks, there have been IS surveillance issues, drugs being supplied. Despite that, and remember, it was on 27 June 2021 that Jammu Air Base was attacked. And on 15th July, Indian government says, we will review our UAS policy, unmanned aerial system rules policy, because US rule policy was stringent and it was unrealistic. And it was done how many? Barely 18 days after the attack, which is unheard of in Indian, policy makers taking a decision like that. And then going back on a rule which was made by themselves, it doesn't happen. It will not happen in any such industry in the near future, and it did not happen in the past. So there was a realization that drone is different from any other industry. And not only that, remember from 12th March, US rules had come. 15 July, Indian government takes a call. We review the policy and put it under suspension. And 25th August, within 1 month, they come up with a new policy. Like 40 days for public consultation, for all the ministries taking a call on the policy and coming up with a new policy. So I think the trend is changing. And remember, it was not steered at a ministerial level, it was steered at the highest level in the country. So there is a realization, and I think drones are appearing to be very promising. the fact that Augustine is sitting.
Thank you for that, Narangji. I have one more question before we move on to the presentations. Because you mentioned business, I have this question. We are CASI. We work like a think tank across multiple subjects, across 52 countries, and we believe that drones in India presents a very large opportunity. So it's like the software business, or it's like the biotech business. So if you look at the software business in the nascent stage, in the way it grew, we have so many multi-billion-dollar players which came in the software business. Again, the world saw biotech changes, and there are so many companies in countries which adopted biotech very quickly in the policy, in the pricing stand. So we believe that drones can be a multi-billion-dollar business, if not $1 trillion business. And there are so many companies which can become billion-dollar companies within the drone business. So what do you feel about that in specifics to India?
Okay.
Are we going there? Are we going there?
Yeah. See, in fact, I personally believe that trajectory of drone is different from biotech and even IT industry. All said and done, if you relate, we still don't have our operating systems. We still don't have our Googles. We still don't have our Facebooks. Of course, some have come up in the last last 1 or 2 years. But in general, we have been a relatively low value industry. While because of number are very large, so that a small bit becomes a very big amount. But as a whole, as a world, on the world scenario in both these industries, we are relatively small players. Of course, we have much in biotech. We have a very big production capability, but it's a relatively low value industry. But drones have a different are a different segment, and why? Because in the past we were talking about India becoming a aviation hub, Ude Desh Ka Aam Aadmi, which was making aviation reach every nook and corner of the country. But nobody talked about India will become a aviation manufacturing hub. But drone is different. Here we are talking of services, we are talking of multi capabilities, but we are also talking of manufacturing. And because you see Groupie Augustine there, and because you see many startups, and remember, many startups who won the contract, they won it against sometimes global competition. So it's an industry for the global players to come and join hands as an equal partner, not as an investor in where you are taking over or where you are there. You got to think of an Indian drone industry little different from other two industries which we have mentioned. So drone industry, if you see, Indians are willing to give competition. Indians are willing to develop a capability, though the scale is small, but the capability exists. So that is the fact which people have to realize, and that is where, if people have to collaborate with Indians, then they have to think of what are the creation of ecosystem in here. We talk of best testing facilities, so that when you collaborate, we talk of best certification, we talk of best standards, so that when you collaborate with Indians, you have equal, you have a clear understanding, and you can test your machines, you can fly them, you can come to the level, use the Indian brain, use the Indian technology, use your technology, and collaborate to develop the best technology of the world. I think that is where the opportunity is, and that's how I view the Indian drone industry. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely, sir. Giatri, over to you. Please tell us your thoughts on
may I add
drones.
May I add 2 points?
Yes, sir. Please.
If you remember, Group Captain Narang told you about 2 dates. One was 25th August, where the new policy, which was the same year, March policy, was reversed, and the pro-industry policy was brought out. I mean, absolutely downloadable document. I would request Giatri also to download the document and see. But what I want to share with you is this 25th August. Remember the date. Okay. Can you see this? screen?
Gusty, your voice is not clear. Yeah, maybe you can switch off your video.
Now look at this date. So you saw the date.
15
On
July.
25th August, the policy was launched. On 25th August, the day the policy was launched, some of the companies got their permissions also in hand in the same day. That means the policy is enacted. The paperwork before the policy was launched was ready. Can you even imagine this kind of proactiveness from any government in the history of existence? Forget about Indian government. The policy is coming out, but the paperwork for the policy for the companies to apply for it is ready. On the very same day the policy was announced, our company was given the R&D permission and as the manufacturer's permission. Very same day. That is the kind of urgency in government of India is showing. Why? And I am just re-emphasizing Narang's point, Group Captain Narang's point, that today in this technology, we have a level playing field as anybody else, as maybe Trinidad and Tobago or US or UK. Why? There is no more haves and have-nots club. All of us have jumped into this fray together. Whoever crosses this swimming pool on the other side first will emerge a winner. And
sure,
how will that happen?
I have a follow-up question on that, which I will ask after 5 minutes once Giatri finishes, because I agree there is a level playing field. It is very easy to have a level playing field because on a ranking of countries, 198 countries, the country which stands at 198 number also has a level playing field. So it is never about level playing fields. It is always about what are you doing tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So I will ask you that question in 6-7 minutes. Over to you, Giatri. Please tell us your opinion on on this drones and policies.
Okay. So should I start my presentation now, or just to give my opinion?
Please. No, the presentation, please.
Okay, presentation. Great. Are you guys seeing my screen clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So just to confirm, we do have a lot of countries around the world with really elaborate drone policies and UAS policies on the whole. It's actually more than 50 countries, and each government has taken the approach to develop their policy based on their country's needs. But for the benefits of the viewers and you guys on panel here, I will be discussing some of the factors that influence these policies. So a drone is classified as a type of disruptive technology, and rightfully so, right? I'm sure that many of you present here today on the panel have given some or a lot of thought on changing traditional processes by incorporating this type of aircraft. However, while it is quite fascinating and intriguing to think about a drones and advancements, as you guys have been mentioning, we have to acknowledge the fact that as the technology grows, so does the safety and security concerns of the citizens of that country, right? That is where the policies come in. And this happens with any specialist technology, right? There are safety concerns and there are safety queries. So you have to take that into consideration. Hence, while the technology grows threefold worldwide, so it's growing worldwide, it's a really big industry, so does the policies that guides its operations. Can you imagine having any piece of equipment be used without having some sort of guidance for it? It screams chaos, right? Thus, I think that by briefly summarizing some of the factors that influence UAS policies, we open up the floor for a greater discussion about these policies. I know that maybe most of you guys are on the technology side of things, but it's always good to hear what you guys would like to see when it comes to policy, the policy sides of things, right? And I don't think that I can fit at least one country's policies in this presentation because of how extensive it usually is. Within most of the policies worldwide, the preferred term used for drones or these small yet complex aircraft is unmanned aircraft or remotely piloted aircraft. And if there are associated components, we refer to it as a flight system, right? So we add the flight system to the end. Nonetheless, the terminology depends on the state in which it is used. So the state determines what terminology is best to use for that country, and they go ahead and use it. But while these policies are very specific in terms of language for that country, they all do the same thing, and that is they wrangle the growth of the technology as it changes the faces of many industries. So industries such as construction, agriculture, security, to name a few, they wrangle those developments so that it can be cohesive and also help us out, right? For example, there are many research companies that parrot the same thing. While the technology is said to be growing and becoming very large in value, these values are only truly realized when when it is paired with policies. And they go both hand in hand. Like I said, it will be chaos if you have this advanced technology, let's just say a drone that can be remotely identified, but yet you have no policies to guide how it is used, right? That would be very chaotic. And I'll give the example with India, right? BIS research would have stated that India, as of 2021, has the potential to garner about 4.25% of that $28 billion that the UAS industry is worth worldwide, because it has now, because of the draft policies that has been introduced in July, it has become more achievable. So in fact, there were a big set of headlines stating that India is set to become a multi-billion-dollar drone industry because of the changes in these policies. So there are a lot of research and a lot of companies that are researching these factors that are providing us with some good information about how the technology works pretty well with the actual technology growth, right? And the policies. But I think that we can all agree that you're probably confused as to why I'm going to compare a manned aircraft to unmanned aircraft, right? And I think that we can all agree that manned aircraft has a pretty long history and a very well-established foundation. Thus, the concept when unmanned aviation came along, people were stumped, and arguably they are still stumped. So it could be governments, it could be individuals, it could be just citizens in the public. We are all still very stumped about what drones can do, because every 2 weeks, the capability of a drone is changing. The mechanisms are different, the techniques are new and dynamic, the science is consistently evolving. But by differentiating between these two types of aviation, the differences inherently give rise to factors which guide the course of policy creation for UAS worldwide. So this is, I'm not pointing at one particular country. I'm talking about worldwide UAS policy development here, right? So we're talking North America, Asia, Europe. All of these are usually guided by these factors, right? And of course, there are many factors that guide these policies. However, there are 5 main factors. So as you can see on the screen, we have collision avoidance, control flight surfaces, situational awareness, ATC communications, human factors. All of those things guide policy creation, right? So the first one I'll speak about is collision avoidance. Now for manned aviation, the pilot for the most part can see hazards, right? And if they can't, they can use some sort of instrument. But with a drone or with a UAS, you're not able to usually get that first person view. And thus it increases your chance of colliding with obstacles. So we have aspects such as field of view, depth, and even contrast perception can be misleading. So while we have the technology that boasts of capabilities such as see and avoid or anti-collision, or I get introduced or someone else in Europe gets introduced to a technology that says that it can prevent this from happening, how are we even sure that this technology can actually work? We are not sure that it can work, right? And if we take the chance to say that it can work and we send it up into our airspace and it doesn't work, what will happen? We will injure ourselves, we will injure property, we will cause a threat to aviation, right? So for example, we have policies revolving around visual line of sight. These policies are usually very common worldwide. So if you take a look at over 50 of these countries' policies, you'd see that visual line of sight is an established policy, right? Now we have very few countries moving towards beyond visual line of sight, but that is after so much testing and research have done. So we cannot just put out ourselves here and say, listen, the technology can do this, so let it do this. That cannot happen, right? Same thing with controlled flight surfaces. The pilot can for manned aircraft, the pilot can directly input controls that would, make the aircraft function, and he can make judgments based on the situation at that point in time. But remember, each airspace is different. Each technology cannot cater for every single airspace in the world. So if a drone is being manufactured in China or even India, how are we so sure it's going to be adaptable in, let's just say, Barbados or America? We can't, because each airspace is dynamic, it's variable in nature. And remember, the pilot is not going to be in the cockpit, and he'll never be fully aware of what is affecting the drone, right? So he relies on this C2 or communication link. And thus, because of relying on such link and the technology, that becomes a threat in itself. We have a lot of instances worldwide where there are a lot of flyaways, a lot of loss of links. So this is another factor that promotes policies such as flyaway policies, or policies where the remote pilot has to, make contact with the ATC towers when there are flyaway situations, right? So these are just some policies associated with this particular factor. Now we have situational awareness. So we've spoken multiple times with the physical disconnect that the pilot faces. But what about the sensory deprivation that the remote pilot faces, as opposed to a pilot who is able to touch and feel and hear everything? So a remote pilot is sensory deprived. And so there have to be some policies that must make it mandatory for this remote pilot to get these sensations before sending up the UAS into the airspace to operate. So we have like pre-flight checks, medical requirements, aerial reconnaissance, and a number of other policies, right? These are just some policies that I've gone through. So I've read quite a bit of policies worldwide to know that these are very common policies that try to assist with situational awareness. Then we have the other factor, ATC communication. We all know that within aviation for manned aircraft, you're in constant communication with ATC. But with drone operation, there is little to no guidance at all, right? Of course, with the technology, again, we have a lot of alternative methods to get assistance and guidance, whether be it voice or data. But to say that the drone has connection to ATC communication, or you can communicate with ATC, that is not entirely possible right now. So right now in North America, there are policies that have been put in place this year that requires manufacturers as of next year to start manufacturing UAS that has remote identification capabilities, broadcast capabilities. Actually, they have removed the requirement, or remove the fact that you have to have a transponder on your unmanned aircraft while operating, because of this remote identification method. So with this remote identification method, who knows, ATC communication can increase. However, right now, many countries only require pilots in command to notify ATC if there are specialized operations, such as operations around an airport, or operations near some type of aerodrome, or if there are operations that are taking place simultaneously while manned aircraft is within the airspace. So only in specialized operations does the remote pilot get access to ATC, right? And the last factor that I want to touch on, and again, this is not the only factor, these are not the only factors that we consider with policy making. There are many others, but these are just some main ones I thought are quite interesting for discussion for you guys and the viewers who might be new to all of this, right? And we also have human factors. Now, being in aviation, we all know that human factors affect both manned and unmanned aircraft. It's one of the biggest group of factors we consider. However, I will say that remote pilots face unique challenges in that, while a pilot is for a manned aircraft is in a cockpit, and he is, you would say, blocked off from the rest of the world, he can focus on flying this aircraft. Remember, the remote pilot is susceptible to distractions. Maybe he'd be accosted by the general public. I'm sure you guys know that the general public is very hesitant still on UAS technology, even though they know what it is, right? So he can be accosted by these people. He can injure himself over time by constantly looking up into the airspace. There are many things that can affect this remote pilot that does not fall under the usual human factors, right? And so we have policies that guides this as well. So UAS policies worldwide, such as discontinuation of flight operations, or medical, or if you have any suspicion of a medical condition, or who they can operate over, where they can operate. All of these things are different types of policies that can potentially, that is currently, or that are currently affecting the operations of these UAS, right? So drones, of course, are the epitome of technological advancement. And from the first discussion we've had before this presentation, I've heard like a lot of different good operations that can be done with it. However, if there are no localized policies to guide the usage of this equipment, then there would be chaos. It would not be disruptive, but it would be destructive, as well as counterintuitive to human life, property, and the aviation industry than anything else, right? So while we excitedly purport all of these advancements, and while we look forward towards a future like that, we have to remember that these things have to be guided in some sort of manner that can ensure that it is going to be operated safely. And that is where UAS policies come in worldwide. We have a really great network of policies that, are constantly changing, just like the technology. I know that it cannot change quick enough because of the processes involved, but I can guarantee that once, the sufficient time is given, there will be changes. And I just want to point out with India, the move from a stringent set of regulations to a more guided, more free set of operational guidelines could potentially be because earlier on we never had anything to guide this type of unmanned aircraft, right? So like I said, people were stumped, governments were stumped, and you know governments usually would put forward stricter regulations when they are not sure how to proceed with this particular type of technologies. And it's only seen in the past with other technologies that once they become more and more familiar with it, of course it's going to change. And we have research companies such as Goldman and Sachs and BIS being able to predict this because it is, or it has been seen in history with other type of equipment, right? So policies go hand in hand with drone,
I
and the
completely
purpose
agree
of
with you on that, Gayatri,
this,
that this is a billion-dollar opportunity.
the
And
purpose,
it's
yes,
working. And your policy slides were pretty elaborate. So the 5 factors that you showed, are pretty convincing. That yes, it is very different. But I want to talk about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So
okay,
I usually say 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, as in, okay, so this has happened. Now what are we going to do? How are we going to make money? What is the country doing? So
okay,
let's take the discussion to Narang Saab, and since he represents the Drone Federation, he will have a very generic point of view. You represent the government. Augustine represents capitalists. But Narang Saab represents a body. So he has to maintain a disciplined approach somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So Narang sir, please tell us how are you promoting capitalist, pushing the government into taking the policies? What is really happening? How can we capitalize on this opportunity? You're on mute, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, I had a presentation, but it was not only. Should I answer first or also cover the evolution of drone technology?
Oh, you can cover it in the presentation. I'm okay, sir.
Yeah. So basically, the issues raised by Gayatri, I did publish a paper called "Technological and Regulatory Challenges in Operation of Drones in uh, non-segregated airspace where they are flying together." So I've done a detailed study, and as part of my book, I have dedicated one full chapter where I have analyzed the issues raised by Gayatri. Uh, in my book, when I talk of India's quest for UAVs and challenges, one chapter was dedicated to really understand what are the challenges these drone industries have. And whatever she said, these are real concerns of an aviator, these are the concerns of a government, these are concerns of a regulatory body, these are the concerns of a security bodies. She spoke about a lot of issues. But to understand these evolution of drone per se, I will take you back to the history and then we will discuss all these issues. Okay, we need to
How
go
much
back.
time we have, sir? 7 minutes, is it?
Sorry.
For the presentation, we have 7 minutes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so basically, the General Harry H. Hap Arnold, who's viewed as the father of USAF, he had said long ago, it is in late 40s, just after the World War II, we have just won a war with a lot of heroes flying around in planes, and the next war may be fought by airplanes with no men in them at all. Take everything you have learned about aviation in war, throw it out of the window, and let's go to work. Tomorrow's aviation, your 9 o'clock. It will be different from anything the world has ever seen. He had predicted it took some time. And why it took time is what the history tells us. History is old. Like people have tried different means of, fighting a war or conveying messages, taking photographs. There are events starting from 1849 onwards. 1861, armed balloons were employed. 1863, again, first armed balloon patent was registered. Okay. And 1898, they first time demonstrated radio control of a boat. So history is very old. And remember, aviation came to being in 1903 and 1917. They converted a trainer aircraft into an unmanned aerial vehicle. Now, it could carry 300 pounds bombs up to 50 miles. Then Charles F. Catering designed Catering Bug, which would carry 180 pounds to 75 miles. Then US converted a biplane as a anti-aircraft targets. So they wanted to really check whether these, their anti-aircraft systems are good enough, but never got a confidence that, drones can really replace manned aviation. Even Germans were moving ahead, but unfortunately they lost the war. V2 rockets didn't make it. 40s, the piston engine drones were developed. 1951, Firebee jet engine subsonic drone was, but it was not till 1960 when U2 was shot down by Soviet Union, and 1962 another YouTube, surveillance manned aircraft was shot down, which led to the serious thinking in the America to develop a unmanned surveillance system. So they developed Firebee. And what I'm showing you now is that from there onward, they even converted some of the manned aircraft into unmanned ones. 1961, they first converted QF F-104 into an unmanned one. 1974, 102. 1979, F-100. 86, 106. 97, Q4, F4, and 2013, 2013, F-16. The first major change was shooting down of reconnaissance plane. The second was Israel's heavy losses to Egyptian air defenses in Yom Kippur War. Israelis learned, they realized that they need not develop, they didn't follow American policy, rather they developed small drones and they developed cheaper drones. And they used them as a decoys, they used many other innovative innovations to use them as a suppression of enemy air defense or destruction of enemy air defense in collaboration with their missiles, in collaboration with their manned aircraft. So as a result, 52 Syrian aircraft were lost with none for the Israeli Air Force. And you see the two drones which are displayed, very, very elementary drones, but innovative employment. First Gulf War, they used drones for surveillance, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Global Hawk was used for very long range ISR, high altitude, long range surveillance missions. But after World Trade Center attack, America became serious about reducing the gap between surveillance and strike. And then they made an armed predator which was used to destroy or strike the, strike these terror elements which they were there. So they, in their global war on terrorism, they started using armed drones for the first time in September 2001. But these capabilities of these drones were always questioned because they said America can do it when there is no contested airspace. It cannot happen in other places where there is a contested airspace. So simultaneously, they started the development of unmanned fighter drones. And the world over, Boeing is developing since 1999. France is developing since 2003. China is also has been developing and is developed 2-3 types. But UK developed Taranis. Russia started little late but is catching up. And after this came the recent drone revolution. What Giatri was saying, the small, slow, and low-flying drones, they provide you abundant opportunities, but they also created new challenges. And drones are being employed by non-state actors, terrorists, criminals for surveillance, smuggling, and armed attack. But at the same time, the same drone where your cities are becoming congested, your airspace is becoming limited, these your ground, your ground means of transportation is becoming challenging. These drones offer you ability to move people when there is a traffic jam. They provide you succor at the, when there is an earthquake simultaneously at multiple places. They provide you medicine. You could talk about hills where, by you build so much of infrastructure and then, there is a landslide, you can do nothing. Your drone goes and delivers your blood. It does blood, gets blood samples, does wonderful job. If you look at some of the places which are rather difficult by terrain. And then came the swarm technology, AI, ML, miniaturization. Today these swarms are not able, like you have an earthquake, there are multiple people needing, some people needing medicine, some people needing, first you have to identify. Even identification is an issue. So many things can be done by multiple drones operating in a similar limited airspace. While the man have their own limitation, drones, you can actually download the imagery and see through it in a, rather more focused manner. You have exact location, much more can be done. And more importantly, I am seeing very, very encouraging trend. We are seeing a lot of pollution related issues in Delhi, and drone displays can replace many of those firecracker displays which used to cause a lot of problems. And then now talk about threat of drones. 2018 Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro was attacked where 7 people was injured. Russian air and naval bases were attacked in Syria into same year. 2019 armed drone attack on Aramco oil facility is well known. Almost 50% of the really change the Armenia had won the previous war, and this time they had no chance because drones exposed everything what they had. But at the same time, reasonably, let's look at the trajectory of Indian drone technology in India. Indians have been working on it rather unsynergetic manner. NAL has developed about 3 birds. HAL is a production partner for the third bird, which is a much more capable bird for 90-minute endurance and much more capable sensors. But they are likely to be used for in India, some police agencies and some of the civil agencies. Our private industry is doing wonderful job. They are improving day by day. So we have very much. But at the same time, public sector played a role. Netra today, our Idea Forge is doing wonderful. Today they are making switch drones. They are making new drones which are much higher reliability. Many of the concerns which Gayatri has raised, these people are working day and night to address every concern we people face. Similarly, our industry bodies are working day and night to ensure that tracking issues are resolved. We are working day and night to ensure that ATC management issues are resolved. We are working day and night to ensure that training issues are resolved. We are working day and night to ensure that identification of the people who are flying is reduced. But at the same time, we are also trying to make it a. Remember, from 2014 to 2021, 7 years of experience of restricted flight. We were not sitting. We were trying to develop systems, procedures, capabilities which make these drones fly. And you see the what was followed in the leading manufacturers. There they took the precautions, they developed the technology, but they also allowed the operation of drones. And that's why, even if you look at the case of China, China in 2013 had 10,000 drone pilots, and the numbers have increased, they have not reduced. And remember, China faces many problems. And this is one of, I will say, father of India's, rather, if you say, call Rustam ji Damania. on his name, we are Rustam 1 is flying and Rustam 2 we are developing. Rustam 1, we are trying to develop more capabilities, and Rustam 2 is going to be a future of male drones in India. They flew Rustam 1 flew in 2010, Rustam 2 in 2016, and capabilities we are working on. And now the confidence is coming. We are looking at our aeronautics industry has made some progress. We have developed light combat aircraft. We have developed number of helicopters. Our aeronautics industry is becoming little confident, and now they are trying to experiment with a combat aerial teaming system. So it has come with the confidence that some of the technologies are matured, some of the technology they are willing to work, and which is a very promising signal. Aura, which is a combat aircraft of which India has been developing, we are a little slow. 2009 we did the study. 2016 the project was to be taken up, but it's moved slowly. Now we have developed a test bed, which is likely to next year, and then we will go for a full scale. Now I come to the end of my presentation. 2014 we put ban. 2018 high-level task force was started to prepare a roadmap for unmanned aerial technology.
Sir, we request you to please summarize as we are running a bit late.
August 2018, yeah, okay. So, in fact, these were the only two slides. Rules have become empowering. By wonderful job in many. And Giatri may like to know that number of roles which these drones are flying, they are useful for coming to rules. A lot of major reforms are there, and some aspects have to be defined. Certification is working in progress. UTM is likely to come up. Digital Sky very soon, and some more new initiatives as a flash, so I will not cover them all. BVLS, we are already doing trial ahead of which is at par with what is happening globally. Unmanned urban air mobility is a future. BVLS operationalization. PLI scheme is a commitment of the government to promote drone manufacturing. We are looking at new R&D initiatives and testing sites, and that is all from my side. Now we can take on anything, any questions if you have.
Narangji, thank you very much for that. It is heartening to know that the government and the private sector are working very hard on advancing the drones policies, technologies, and the businesses together. Let's hear it from the startup, the capitalist, and the fighter pilot. So, Captain Augustine, please tell us your thoughts, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. I heard Giatri. So I am forced to give out 4 slides, which I want to call it the global drone policy guidelines. Like I said, when I heard Giatri, I heard her talking of many things, which is the standard pitfall that Grupi Narang talked about in our March guidelines, which countries will 99% of the countries will fall into that trap and deprive themselves of progress. So, like I said, we cannot mix law and order with drone. Law and order is different. Drone rules and policies are different. If you mix both, you will get one khichdi, which will be so difficult to solve that you may take decades to solve it. And thankfully, the new drone policy came up. So I'm going to restrict those 4 slides for global drone policy guidelines, and through few product lines tell you what is in store for the world in future. So 8:21, I'll try and wrap it up by 8:30, 8:29, right? So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So the policy guideline, what I would, like to say is there has to be instructions and guidance. That means an authorized owner and operator, he should be, he should provide all kinds of instruction to operate the drone. It is like you buying a mobile phone. It tells you these buttons do this on the mobile phone. These buttons do this on the mobile phone. Very similar to that. And it should be as simple as that. Second, flying in the permissible area. Giatri talked about remote pilot, him being the PIC, pilot in command. All those things are thing of the past. Today, the drone which goes and delivers medicine in Uganda does not have a PIC, because drones are meant to fly autonomously. We are going to have air taxis flying autonomously with no PIC. It is going to be flying from A to B through a known route and at a known time. Collision avoidance done more through procedural control rather than a positive control. Equip operation personnel with all possible information and equipment. No equipment should be less, and have a licensed frequency apparatus. Have a license to fly. That means teach people how to fly. So in India, we have a 7-day long course. That's it. And thereafter, you become a drone pilot. You go to a new vehicle, the new company is supposed to teach you that this is how my drone is likely to fly. And what Grupi Narang covered, airworthiness, especially if you're flying these drones over people, where if your aeroplane is not worthy, it will fall on somebody's hand and will hurt them. Then you have to have some kind of a maintenance philosophy and manual, so that the airworthiness also is covered within the rules of maintenance philosophy. And then privacy protection through tracking. And transferable, non-transferable, the way you sell your car. So this is how I would say, and this is where you can reach out to me. This is what I would say should be the global policy guideline for tools. Anything beyond this, you will be hamstringing yourself. By the time you get out of it, it'll be too late. Okay, coming to my intro. I flew these aeroplanes, Mirage 2000, MiG-21, Kiran, Airbus. I got presidential award as well. A lot of other ways I tried killing myself. I'm a PADI scuba dive master and USPA skydiver, mountaineer, etc., etc. So let me go through few products that is there in the world. There are very low-cost products like a trainer drone or a toy drone. Then you have a surveillance drone, a quadcopter surveillance drone, ubiquitous. Every military today is using it in some form or manner. There are fixed-wing drones, something like a Skylark flying around, maybe an hour to 4 hours of endurance. Bigger drones like these and octocopters you see now have taken over, so to say, the spraying activity in tea estates and in paddy fields, etc. Then you have those convertible or drones which fly like a fixed wing, lands like a helicopter, something like a Harrier. So hybrid drones. Then you have solar. Our companies worked on this as well. Then you have those high altitude pseudo satellites which can remain airborne for few months and few years, maybe 5 to 7 years. There are then tethering drones, which takes power from the ground and can remain airborne forever, theoretically. You have loitering munitions. Our company is working on one such product. Loitering munitions aspect which Narang covered. In fact, post Aramco attack, I had an opportunity of being invited by Saudi government, and I went there and analyzed this particular attack. Then you have the unmanned combat aerial vehicle like the Global Hawk, Predator, etc. Then lots of courses are coming up in drone. So there's the opportunity that lies ahead as far as drone is concerned is immense. Companies wanting to jump in. Whoever is listening to us can totally get in touch with us. We are absolutely open to pass on and hold companies to establish themselves. But be that as it may, what is important for us to understand is that as nation, as entrepreneurs, as budding entrepreneurs, as people who have the passion to bring about some change, they need to get on this bandwagon of drones. Do you believe it? These total station survey, that is using those triangular pods and those camera looking things survey, is thing of the past today, at least in India. Today, drone does the survey and million points it takes out for one by 1 kilometer, and gives you contour lines which are 2 to 3 centimeters, sometimes 10 centimeters accurate. There are areas which drone is completely replaced the traditional methods. Short haul, we are working with a company called Dunzo, urban delivery of food packets and other logistics delivery. We are working closely using mobile hotspots, flying over people, having redundancy built in. We have, if you have a road accident on a road, do you stop using vehicles or stop using that road? No, you learn from that road accident, but you move on. So while carrying out drone operations, you will get into trouble. But that trouble, you have to take it in the stride, learn lesson, and move on. My final parting thought to you is please go and see that Goldman Sachs report. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Don't lose the bus. Like Paresh correctly covered, and he branded me as capitalist, which I don't know whether I am or not. But there is no 9 o'clock for me. There is no 9 o'clock for me because I get up very early, 4:35. I'm my workshop. So my day starts at 4. So it's tomorrow 4 o'clock, and tomorrow is just another bright day and a bright sunny day. Thank you all, and please remember, don't mix law and order with drones. They are two different things altogether.
Thank you, Captain Augustine, for that. So today's session was planned in a way that we have a government representative, we have a body which has to remain neutral and does not have a choice, and we have a capitalist who keeps on pushing both of them, saying let's do business. So that is why you were on the right side, on the capitalist side. But I am with you, sir. I am with you all the way. So I believe in capitalism all the way.
I believe I had a little bit of say in this change in rules. In fact, Narang and I may have had a fight also.
No, thank you all very much for being here today. It was an amazing session, and we come to the end of the session. Let me make an announcement. The drones is a 3-part lesson. So Narangji, please tell me. You're on mute, sir. You're on mute.
I will invite Giatri ji to engage with Drone Federation of India. We will see you through, while we will also learn from your experience. Whatever issue is there that need to be addressed, but come and see the Indian drone industry, meet those people who are doing it. I'm sure your concerns, some of them they might have addressed, some they will learn from you. Indian drone industry is open for ideas. It's willing to make anything which is there, and in fact my suggestion to you would be buy some drones for your government entities so that you have a confidence that it works the way you want. Buy some for the security forces, some for the government industries or some of the bodies which are involved in industry, so that you have both sides of view, and then you make a call. You will benefit more. Thank you.
Okay, I want to say thank you for that invite. I have actually done some operations with some Indian companies in the past, and pretty good stuff. We're basically on the same page. Of course, I can't divulge how and who has drones and who doesn't have drones and stuff for my particular country, but I just want to point out that, and this is not just for my country, but at least for the Western Hemisphere, we don't work apart. We don't work apart from our operators. within the Western Hemisphere, we are very in tune with what our operators want, and we host all these different meetings and collaborative efforts to ensure that our operators are happy. And usually it is our operators of these technologies that are actually the ones who are purporting the policy changes, just because they understand how much they can benefit. So it's not, so at least within the Western Hemisphere, it's not that we are imposing this on the operators, but it's the operators being compliant with the regulations, and they actually wanting to see some systematic policies and stuff being added. So, and just to point out, I know Captain Augustine, he would have mentioned autonomous operations. Our regulations in the Western Hemisphere and throughout the world, it also takes into consideration autonomous operations. And generally speaking, we don't, its policies are not there to suppress a technology, but just to make sure that they grow within some sort of limit, because we all know once you release technology onto the world, it can have catastrophic effects on people, right? So it's not that we're working against the technology, it's just that we want to encourage people to do these developments, but rein it in a little bit, make sure that they do it in such a way that it is safe. At the end of the day, all of these fantastic operations are great. You build all these technologies to help in human operations and so forth, but we have to remember that regardless of whether it's autonomous, semi-autonomous, or manual, humans are the core of these operations, and they have to remain at the core. Anytime we start to think about the technology more than we start to think about the humans, that is when we have to reevaluate what we are doing.
I completely agree with you that the government stand will always be that we will use the technology to flourish, and we will frame the policies so that businesses flourish. We all agree and accept that.
It's not stuck in the mud either. So it's constantly changing. Unfortunately, it can't change as much as the technology changes. But like I said, in North America, we'd be seeing next year. We had this year, we had we know that there are autonomous operations. We know that there are passenger drones. In Europe, they actually had regulations way before we actually had passenger drones in the world. So while the first passenger drone was being tested, we already had policies in Europe to allow for passenger drones. So it's not that the policies are backwards, it's just that it's there to guide you.
Gayatri, I'm running out of time. I need to announce. This brings us to the end of the session for today. As I was saying, this is a 3-day session. Today, tomorrow, and the day after. Tomorrow, we have a very interesting session with 3 business houses working on drones, and the chief guest for tomorrow is Dr. Bal Singh Rajput, the Deputy Commissioner of Mumbai Police. So I welcome all of you to join us tomorrow again. Yeah. So thank you very much. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much.